Troublemaking 101. What we want to do tonight is really focus on the importance of local organizing and how you can make a huge difference where you live. I can't even explain how important this is right now. I know that all of us were feeling and are still feeling the impact of the election. Many people are kind of disengaging, just in disbelief. Many people, though, feel very alone in their communities and they are looking for their people. They are looking for what they can do. And that is why starting a group, that is why engaging those people who have no political home is so, so important. And the one thing we're going to talk about tonight that I do want to emphasize is that starting a political group and getting people involved, it does not necessarily mean that all you're doing is like calling legislators and like taking one political action after another. It can also just be about finding your people and building that community where you have people you can talk to and lean on and go have fun with, even if it's just going to the movies. So it doesn't have to be all about political action. So we're going to lean into a little bit of that too, and have that conversation. But right now, let's talk about how you can start a grassroots group and why this is really an incredible way to make a difference where you live. So I know of what I speak because I have done this myself. It's actually how I got my job at Red Wine and Blue because Katie Paris found me organizing in my community in 2017, 2018, after the last election. We started a grassroots group and, there were maybe 25 of us when we started, and now we have 800 people in a fairly conservative community in Southern Ohio. So, what the importance of grassroots organizing, though, is that you can have a real impact at the state and the local level. Number one, local elected officials and state officials have a huge impact on your life, even bigger than Congress. We always hear about Congress and things in the news, but honestly, your state house is setting policies that affect your kids in school. Your local school board is making decisions about what's going on in your individual city. Your city council is making decisions that impact you. Everything that happens at the state and local level really has a major impact on your family, your friends, and where you live. And the thing is that these races are actually won by much smaller margins than some of our federal national elections, right? So you can actually, by engaging, turning people out to vote, talking to your friends, getting many people, more and more people involved, you can actually make a huge impact. Some of these races are won by like one or two votes. So you can flip a school board seat or a city council seat. And then if you organize locally, you're also just growing your power to influence people at the state and local level. So state legislators don't really get as many phone calls. And so if suddenly you've got a group of people who are organized and they're all calling their state legislator, they mark those calls and they're all calling from their district, they're going to get noticed. And even calling Congress, they record those, they check off those calls. And if your congressperson is getting 100 calls a day from your city, from 100 different people, I mean, that makes an impact. So there's a lot of way to grow your power by doing local organizing. And once you get organized, you got your people ready to go, and your school board or your city council or your state rep does something that's just off the wall, or you start seeing some extremist policies coming through, you already have your people ready to go. Like you can react, you can make phone calls, you can show up to meetings. And honestly, the best part of local organizing is you build friendships. Like I have met people doing this that I would never have met in a million years otherwise. They are now some of my best friends. So there's a real benefit to doing all of this work. So what we want to talk about is a couple of things right now. Getting started. And we're going to talk about the planning that needs to go into this. We're going to talk about how you organize. We're going to talk about building momentum. And then we're going to take a little break and talk to the women I mentioned who are already doing this. And then we're going to come back and talk about keeping members engaged and giving you some really good ideas about what you could be doing with your local groups. And then we'll talk about how Red, White, and Blue can support you. So let's talk about first the planning. Things to consider before you get started. So first of all, what is the purpose? If you were going to start a local grassroots organization, what is it that you want to focus on? Do you want to just focus on your school board? Are you really interested in a particular issue, like maybe reproductive rights or fighting against anti-LGBTQ policies? My local group, we focus on our local city, our city council, our school board, but also our state house. So really anything that impacts our community. But what's the purpose? And know that before you get started, you want to make sure you're focused, because if you start having people go, let's do this and let's do this, it just gets very unwieldy and you lose that momentum. Think through the membership. Who do you want in this group? Who do you want to become part? Do you want to have it just be people of a certain political persuasion? Are you open to independents? Are you open to people who maybe don't share your political party, but maybe are sharing your values? Um, are you going to allow people who live only in your city or only in your school district or only in your county? It's very important to kind of set group parameters before you get started, because otherwise it can grow to become, again, unwieldy, not focused. And the good thing to all, another thing I will say about that is like set those parameters, set those rules, share them so people know them, and then enforce them. My local group only allows people that live in our city because we want to keep that focus on our city. I get asked all the time, oh, can I just let my sister in because she really needs a group and she lives pretty close? No, the answer is no, because then we're going to start hearing about her school board elections and her city council races, and we want to hone in on what we're doing locally. So just make that decision of like who is going to be part of your membership. And then next, communication. You got to get a group started. You got to figure out a way to communicate with them. So what do you think is going to work best for you and for the people that you were trying to draw? I will say this, and I hate to say this because we are all mad at Meta for many reasons, but Facebook is actually a really good place to start a kind of a community. It's easy to join. People don't have to go to an event. They don't have to show up for anything. They just click a link. You can make it private. You can screen who comes in. And it's a place where you can build community because you can actually have interactive conversations. You can post stuff. You can share information. People get to know each other. But it is still controlled by an algorithm. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second as well, about getting people's information off of line. But it's not the only place. Some people just use an email list and that's what they do. I met a group in a retirement community. None of them really love social media and they just used email. Get yourself on a Signal or WhatsApp or Slack or something like that. So there are maybe you want to do multiple things. There are different like ways to organize, but just kind of think through like, how am I going to communicate with this group? And then your name. The name it can be important because it kind of portrays what you are and who you are and what you stand for. So it can be serious if you're a serious group. It could also be really fun. We have groups called like Badass Bitches. We have groups called one of my favorites is GRR, which is Grassroots Resistance, but they like it because they say GRR whenever they say their name. So there's lots of different, vibes going on there. So just think through like, what do you want the name to be? We can have some fun with it, or it could just be, explanatory about what your group is fighting for. So think those things through in your planning. But now we are on to organizing. So it is time to go. You're going to launch your Facebook group or whatever it is, your website, or you're just going to start up your WhatsApp or your Signal group and you're going to get that going. So we need to start inviting people. Look for people you know who share your values. You may only have like 2 or 3 friends that you feel comfortable with. That's fine. Start with them because they know people and they will invite more people. I have done this training for years now, and I have never once had anybody contact me and say, well, I started a group and nobody joined. Not happens. What I get is, oh my God, I started a group and 100 people have joined. Like that's more of the reaction that you're going to get. But start with the people you know, invite them to join, ask them specifically to ask more people. Look for people on social media that you may not even have thought of. So post some content about politics, about local issues, whatever it may be. Hit up Red, Wine, and Blue social media and share some of our stuff. Who responds to that? Who likes it? Who's commenting on it? If they live and they're within your membership parameters, invite them to join. If you don't like to post political stuff, then maybe go look at your friends' feeds, your local friends who do post stuff. Who's commenting on their stuff? Who can you contact and reach out to? And then another thing, like I mentioned, is that Facebook can be great for organizing, but it also is still controlled by an algorithm. And we know that algorithm is not great right now for political content. So that means that a lot of people will never see what you post. I don't even see things in my own group that I'm the admin for. So it's important to try to get people's information offline. One thing we do for Facebook groups is we do tell people when you are using those membership questions, where you have to say, I live in the city and I check the box and I'll follow the rules. You can also have that be, hey, Facebook won't show you a lot of cool things that are going on. So if you want to give us your email address or your phone number, it's a great way at that entry point to collect that information and you keep it in a spreadsheet. If we do an event where we want people to sign up, sometimes we'll just do like Sign Up Genius because then we can post it online. but we get all that data on the back end, and then you can keep growing your membership list and contact people in another way and not just be controlled by the social media algorithm. So I am sure you'll be very surprised at how fast a group might grow. And then the next thing is you got all your stuff planned out, you have launched, you're adding memberships, and so now you need to build that momentum. You need to keep that group growing. So that means it is time to get together. It is time to meet up in person. So the first meeting is you really want to have fun. You want to start building that community. You want to start making those friendships. So make it fun. You do want to set a vibe. And so think about, where is this meeting going to be? Sometimes you're limited. You have to like go to the library space or the municipal building to get the free room. But maybe someone offers their house, because that's a little bit more relaxed and fun. So think about where you're going to be. And then if it's like kind of a boring room, like how can you spice it up? How can you set up the chairs so people really interact? And then encourage everyone to bring a friend. So the more the merrier, right? Start with social time. I always encourage social time. Red wine and blue is wine is in the name as a metaphor for the social aspect. When Katie was going around meeting women back in 2018, before she started, everybody said the same thing. I was despondent. I didn't like what was going on. I talked to my friends over a glass of wine and we decided to start this group. And so that was the metaphor for wine. Doesn't mean you have to drink wine, just means you need to have a social aspect or a fun point to your event. So maybe it's just half hour of conversation time. Maybe it's everybody wears some kind of an icebreaker and they ask questions to each other to go around and meet people. Just something fun to get started. And then have an agenda. Okay, so make sure you know what it is you're going to talk about. Try to be very conscientious of time. We have all gone to political meetings where they drone on for hours and hours, and you're just ready to run out the door. You don't want to do that. You want people to be energized. You want people to come back, feel like their time is being respected. So really be cognizant of what are you going to talk about and make sure you keep to time. And then, like I said, have a fun icebreaker. If you've got a large group, you probably don't want everyone to go around and introduce themselves, because that can take up the entire meeting time. Maybe it's just like say your name and one thing about why you're here, or one word about why you showed up tonight. Have somebody model that, a couple people, so that, have a couple of plants in the audience to do that so that people don't start to monologue. But then what can you do at a first meeting? Like, what are you going to do? Well, brainstorm it out, but there could just be as easy as maybe finding a local elected speaker to come and talk about what they do on the school board or what they do on city council. You could give even an overview of like government or something. A lot of people don't know civics anymore. It could be an overview of that. It could be just a get to know you type session. It could be a listening session. What do you guys want to do? Um, but some easy calls to action, things for people to walk out the door doing could be, hey, let's all go to the next school board meeting together. Hey, this legislator, we need to call him this week. Here's his information. There is a list online called Rowan's List, ROWAN, and they give actions every day. A lot are more federal, but there's something to do there. Ask them to read up on a local issue, or maybe there's an article, really anything you want, as long as there's some action they're taking then when they leave, and make it fun, not overwhelming. We don't want people to be scared off. So this was kind of our starting opening about how to get started. And now what I want to do is I would like to bring up Sharon and Abby, because they are actually doing this and I want to share their story. So we're going to hear what they're up to and how they got started.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. And hi, Abby, and hi, Sharon. So glad that you could be with us tonight and to share all the great work that you're doing in your local community. So I'd love to just invite you to just introduce yourself to the people on the call. So I'll start with Abby, if you want to say where you're from and which group you're involved with.
So my name's Abby Lewandowski. I live near Akron, Ohio, where it's really snowing right now. And my group is the Akron Democracy Defenders. We've kind of rebranded ourselves because our previous name was kind of a mouthful. So we're ADD now.
I love it. Sharon, how about you?
Okay, so I'm Sharon White, and I'm with Nova Blue Squad, and I'm in Arlington, Virginia, and we cover like the North Virginia area here, and it's been really cold this week, like really cold. No snow.
I mean, It is cold everywhere, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
it is.
So I have some questions for each of you, but I gonna ask them to one of you specifically, but if the other one wants to add something, feel free. So I'll start with you, Sharon. So you
Hello,
started your
hello, hello, hello. I'm
oh,
sorry
oh,
I'm
oh,
late.
oh, okay. Sharon, hello. Sharon, you started your local group with Trouble Nation, Nova Blue Squad. Why did you start it, and what are you hoping to accomplish with it?
I started it because I think some of the points that Judy mentioned in the opening, I needed to connect with people. I needed to be with other women. It was a year ago we started, and I was scared that this election was going to be horrible. I didn't realize quite how bad it was going to be, so for me, I needed to be around people who were, you know, wanted to do something and support each other. So that community was very important. And what we want to accomplish, we're in a very blue area, so a lot of our goals is education and making sure people are aware of the issues. We just had a special election here in Virginia, so we were focused on making sure people knew that there was a special election in Loudoun, just the county near us. So and we have the Virginia elections obviously in November, so we're going to be busy. We're going to be
Very
a very busy.
busy.
Yeah.
Yes. And you grew tremendously quickly, right? Like from you to hundreds, right?
Yeah, it's been because we had carry on Sunday, where I think we got another 28 members or something
Oh
after
my
Sunday.
goodness.
So I don't actually know what my totals are at the moment, but yeah, it's
I didn't look at it today, but it's over 300, I think. So
yeah.
pretty amazing.
I,
So
I thought if we got 30 or 40 members, that'd be really cool. So
you multiply that by 10. So it's amazing. And it shows testament to the work that you're doing. Abby, so you are on the leadership team of Akron Democracy Defenders. Tell us some of the things that ADD has done and is planning for this year.
So I think 2024 was kind of the first year that I was involved in it in earnest. And obviously, as an election year, we did a lot of things around the election, from postcard writing to having members of the Ohio Democrats and their field organizers come and talk to us. We were also focused on our anti-gerrymandering referendum measure, which sadly failed, but getting people aware of what Citizens Not Politicians was, having a speaker from that organization, and trying to encourage participation in getting the petition circulated. We also did some fun things. We made bracelets for Kamala, which was fun. We have a leadership member who's really into jewelry making. We did a banned book bingo, and we partnered with a local alternative bookstore, small business in Akron. She brought a collection of books from her store as in addition to banned books, which was eye-opening, like some of the books that are banned. We had a book club. We read Democracy Awakening by Heather Cox Richardson and had one of our team leads sort of facilitate that. And we did attend a local school board. We have a younger member on our leadership team who's very concerned about her own school board. So even though most of us were not in that district, we were there to support her and the other speakers because of their concerns with an extremist member, and also the introduction of LifeWise into their school district. So a lot of the things that we did were focused around the election and the school board. And I think if we had a theme for 2025, it would probably be support and self-care. We have had a speaker from the Ohio ACLU come to our January meeting and just tell us what they're going to be doing in 2025 and how we can support them. We would like to have a speaker from Planned Parenthood of Greater Ohio come, and also from an organization called International Institute. They rehome refugees in the greater Akron area, and what challenges will they have with what's happening. And in terms of self-care, we're going to have a yoga session, and we have a leadership member who is a licensed therapist. And in February, she's going to do a session on just dealing with trauma, because a lot of people see this as a very, what's happening very, very traumatic. And how do you deal with that? How do you get past it?
Wow. So I'm not sure you have enough that you are accomplishing that you're focusing on this year.
We have
Um,
like seven team lead people, so it's not just
yes,
me,
right.
including you too.
Which is actually for everybody listening, that both Sharon and Abby have leadership teams. It's not all resting on their shoulders, and that is
And it
absolutely a
can't,
best practice.
yes, it is the best practice.
Sharon, did you want to touch on things that you're focusing on this year, or the 20? I know that the elections in
So
Virginia mainly.
we have to get Abigail Spanberger and elected as the governor, and then we need to keep the majority in the Virginia Assembly, so we can get our constitutional amendments. We're working on passing it the first time round, and then we have to pass a second time in 26, and then we can get it on the ballot in November 26. So it's a long process in Virginia. So we have a 2-year plan that we're working on. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. So I think some people on this call may think that to start a group, you have to have had a lot of organizing experience in the past. Now, Sharon, did you have organizing experience before you started your group?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. If anything, the opposite. I'm not. If you talk to the other organizers, I'm like I don't like being in the spotlight. Here I am on a webinar. Yeah, it's you don't need any experience. But I will say what you say. You do need your team. So and if you they will come. I mean, all the members of my team. I didn't know them until we formed the group, and they kind of organically come in and they express an interest. And so yeah, just ask everyone. I think I asked everyone at the beginning, like, do you want to help? And some people say yes, and like I say, and they end up being really good. I love my team. Shout out to them. They are some amazing women, and I couldn't do this without them.
That's great. And Abby, did you have prior organizing experience before this?
I was a Girl Scout leader.
Okay,
Not really.
You'd be amazed at how many leaders, current Trouble Nation leaders, are also
Girl Scout leaders,
current or former Girl Scout leaders. Yes.
Yes. And that was probably the extent of my organizing skills, but that took a lot for a bunch of 9-year-olds.
Yes. Yes. It's not to be discounted.
No,
That's great. So, Abby, what are some of the tools and best practices that you've learned along the way to help your group be successful?
well, like Sharon and Julie had mentioned, I think really leveraging your leadership. What are they interested in? What are their connections? Who are they tied to? That's really important just to get things started, right? And then you can ask your group what it is that they want to work on. I also think that it's kind of important to collaborate with other organizations in the community, like, supporting an alternative bookstore. We've tied in with a company called Akron Honey that gave us space to be able to do postcard writing events. Is everything okay?
It's my dog. He's going nuts. I apologize.
Also, like even supporting a charitable organization, kind of tying in something like that. When you have an event, we've supported a women's shelter. So it builds goodwill and it kind of expands your reach. And I think that's really important. Having a variety of things that you offer that will interest people. Certainly the socializing at the beginning, letting people have a comfortable space where they can get to know one another is really important. And again, the communication, we do have our Facebook, and a lot of people are pushing back on that, but we have like 550 people following us on Facebook. So it's a good place for our community. And we use a format called MailChimp to send out our emails. And we always have like an RSVP link to RSVP for an event that's tied to, I think, our Trouble Nation site. So that's also really helpful too, to reach people.
Great. Thank you. Sharon, do you have anything that you want to add to that? Any best practices that you've thought of in your group that are different?
Yeah, I think, when we started doing our newsletter, we literally just did a Google, we just used Gmail and sent an email out, but as the group got bigger, then yes, you probably do want to look at using some kind of like mailing software. We're using MailerLite over here, but and I think I tell everyone is set up your own a separate email address
That's
for it.
really good. Yeah.
Keep your organizing emails separate from your personal email, because your inbox will explode. And yeah, so I would definitely keep your personal information private.
That's really good advice. Julie, do we have time for two more questions, or should we turn it back to you?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. Okay. So Sharon, what is your advice for someone who is thinking of starting a group, someone on this call, or has just begun and they're just beginning?
I would say, despite what Julie said at the beginning, having a plan, I didn't have a plan as such. I just had an intuition. I wanted to do this. So, um, yes, you do need some guidelines and think it through to a point, but at the same time, don't overthink it too much. You will be building the plane as you're flying it, and that's okay. So, don't worry too much. And, but do at the same time think about what is your lane. It's very easy. I mean, last year there were so many different groups and so many, let's go and, help the youth vote, or help get seniors in retirement communities voting, or whatever. And it's like, our lane is here, and let's just stick here, because it's very easy to scatter, and we have jobs, we have families, and you're just going to burn yourself out. So try and decide where your lane is, and stick to it.
That's great advice. And Abby, I want to close on your group has had some, Julie talked at the beginning about location and finding a place to meet. And your group had some challenges finding the right place, and you ended up finding a perfect place. So could you kind of share with people so they know to stick with it on that regard?
So we kind of had issues just planning out like the next month, because we didn't know where we were going to be. We had rented a community room. We had gone to restaurants, which are kind of noisy and busy. Our library never stayed open. Our public libraries never stayed open late enough for us. So we were always going someplace else. And if somebody had said, "What do you want in a location?" This was the place that dropped from the sky. It's kind of out of the box. It is a renovated church that a young couple purchased, and they live there. They're raising their two young children, and their lower level is available. And I think it's part of their vision too, to host community groups, meetings, organizations, that kind of thing. And so we have a really great location now with plenty of parking and a functioning kitchen and AV equipment and tables and chairs that we don't have to bring ourselves. So it's really made planning a lot easier for us. And it's a really centralized location too. So it's easy for people to come to.
Thank you. And I know, different groups, you may have different challenges, or you may have the perfect location, but just sort of know that you stick with it and,
Don't
reach
let
out to
that
others.
for you.
Yeah, exactly.
For
So,
you.
well, Abby and Sharon, thank you for all the work that you're doing, and thanks for your time tonight. And I think there probably will be some questions for you in the chat at the end. So if you could stick around, that would be great. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Julie Collins.
All right, I'm going to remove the spotlight from everybody, and I will say I 100% agree that finding a place can be difficult. We actually got kicked out of the first one we did because we had a speaker who was too loud. Long story, but you muddle your way through. She's 100% right. I wanted to give you guys planning tips, but I also want to let you guys know flying the plane while you're building it is also very typical.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about tonight is that we want to keep up engagement. You want to keep your members interested in coming back and doing more. So things that you can do is schedule your next meeting so people have it added to their calendars. They don't have to think about it. It's already there. And it doesn't even really have to be a formal meeting, but they know that you're getting together. Don't be afraid to just do something social and fun. It doesn't have to be work all the time. And this is how you build relationships, and keep things going. Ask people what they want to do, because folks will have other ideas too, and that's really helpful. So you don't have to come up with something every time. And then delegate, delegate, delegate. Ask and find helpers. People are flattered to be asked, so don't be afraid. No one will be upset when you say, "I think you would be great at this." The worst they can say is, "I can't." So what can others do to help? Well, others can become co-leaders. They can help you to plan the next meeting or set up social time, and they can lead committees on issues. So, make sure that you're not trying to do everything yourself. That's just, you're going to burn yourself out really quickly. And other folks want to help, but sometimes they just don't know what to do, or they don't know that it's okay for them to offer to do something. So it's really super important that you do that. And when you share with one another and get to know other folks, you'll find that somebody's really good at making flyers. Somebody's really good at, handling money if you have to collect money for something. Somebody else is good at, some of the other things that you're doing. So you don't have to do everything, and don't try to do that either. Somebody else might be great with social media. So you want to get somebody to help with social media content, coordinate the agenda and invites, create a group chat and communicate with a smaller group of highly engaged and easily contactable people. Next slide. So now you might be saying, okay, I'm all in, but I'm not quite sure what to do at these meetings. So we have some advice here, and you're about to hear from, well, you already heard from our Trouble Nation team, who have so many resources on this subject and can help guide you. And Missy's going to come back and give you some more information too. And this is also why you have co-leaders to ask in your group what they want to do. So here are some ideas that you can do. You can educate folks, learn about the issues and track legislation, host local electeds or state advocacy groups. You can teach skills like letters to the editor, giving testimony, public records requests. These are all important things for folks in your groups to know how to do, especially these days. Actions you can take. You can do a mutual aid or charitable events. You can attend school board or city council meetings, depending on what your issue is that you're working on. Work on campaigns. You can bring members to advocacy days and days of action. You can join Red Wine and Blues Rally Your Squad program, and you can create a voting guide. And, don't forget to have some fun. Game nights, trivia time, band book bingo. Those are all, great ways of getting people involved in your group, and, they're having fun, so they're going to come back time and time again. Have a happy or an unhappy hour, stitching and bitching, yoga and self-care events, craftivism, like the making of the bracelets, start a book club, attend events together like theater, speakers, author talks, movies, axe throwing or rage rooms. There's a lot of things that you can be doing that to, have some fun as well. So next slide. And just remember that you can do this. There are many women in our network that have started local grassroots groups with no other political experience. And by the way, I was a Girl Scout leader too. So that's kind of funny that, that came up tonight. There's probably a lot of us on this call who are. Someone needs to step up. So, why not you? I promise you that others will join, and you will find help, and you'll find new friends. Plus, you don't have to do this alone, because Trouble Nation is here to help you get started. So Missy is going to share with us a little bit more about Trouble Nation, and I'm going to kick it back over to her.
Thank you, Julie. So I'm not sure I introduced myself before, but I'm Missy McGinnis, and I head up our Trouble Nation program here at Red, White, and Blue. So I'm excited to share with you about how you can get involved with joining a group or starting a group, and what the program is all about. And you'll see on each of the slides, there's a QR code to grab to take you to the Trouble Nation landing page at Red, Wine, and Blue. Okay, so just to back up, like, what is Trouble Nation? Trouble Nation is Red, Wine, and Blue's national grassroots organizing program. And what we do is we help new local groups across the country get started, and we help existing groups grow and strengthen. And one of the beauties of this program is that all groups are independent of Red, White, and Blue. So what we're not doing is creating chapters, and that gives you a lot more flexibility to do what is important in your local area and not feel constricted by guidelines from Red, Wine, and Blue. But at the same time, we give you access to lots of Red, Wine, and Blue content, training and event opportunities, and connections with other leaders who are part of the program. So it's kind of the best of all worlds. And in our opinion. So is Trouble Nation near you? And I've seen some comments that some of you are finding groups in your area, others haven't been able to. So Trouble Nation launched almost exactly 16 months ago. As of about an hour ago, we had 584 grassroots groups across the country. So chances are there are groups in your area. And then we are in all 50 states plus. And you might be wondering, well, what is the plus? So just a little bit of kind of fun facts. We have our first expat group that just joined in the last couple of days, so from Canada, and we have interest from military bases in Germany, and also we have interest from a group in Mexico. So these are all American, American voters who live in other countries, and that's pretty exciting. Also had a wonderful conversation with a woman who is a nomad. So she does not have she doesn't have a home base. Her home base is her RV or her Airstream, and she wants to bring the nomad community together. So this is all very exciting. And together, our groups, we have over 110,000 members collectively in all of these groups. What do we offer with Trouble Nation? And I would characterize the Trouble Nation, the value proposition, into 6 main buckets. And so number 1, we can help with new member recruitment here on the left. And we can do that in a few different ways. So Julie gave you a lot of ideas about how you can sort of organically grow your group by reaching out to your networks. We can also, Red, Wine, and Blue has hundreds of thousands of people in our community, and we can connect you with people in your area who you may not know. And so we do that in a few different ways. Secondly, we offer every group who's accepted gets a dedicated landing page. And on that landing page, you can communicate with your members, schedule events, create petitions, share resources. So then you can communicate with your members and organize them and see what their contact information to reach out to them separately as well. Below landing pages, making connections with other leaders. So we do that in a few different ways. We have a dedicated Slack platform. If you're familiar with that, that's a communication platform that every Trouble Nation leader is invited into. And it has channels where you can communicate with other people. And so we have a few main channels that everybody's in, but we also have state-specific channels. So if your state has more than one Trouble Nation group, then you'll have a channel to communicate with them. And that's a nice way to organize locally. We also do a monthly virtual happy hour, which are pretty informal. We might share a few updates about Trouble Nation, but generally we want you to connect with other people doing the same work that you are in different parts of the country. We also have leadership and advocacy training. So Julie lead a lot of national training every week. There's so much on a national level. The Trouble Nation program, in addition to that, we've created some training series that are geared to the issues that grassroots groups leaders want us to focus on. And so what we do is we hold these programs live, and then we record them and we put them on our website, which is our Trouble Nation resources page, which kind of brings me to exclusive content and opportunities. And the biggest piece of that is this Trouble Nation resources page. It's a very robust resource with content, training, and tools all in one place. And we also have certain events that we make and other opportunities to get involved that we only make available to Trouble Nation leaders. And then finally, it's Red, Wine, and Blue support. Our team is committed to making this program as personal as possible. We open up our calendars to schedule one-on-one time, and we also offer several other group opportunities to get together with us. We want to answer all of your questions. So please schedule, if you have questions, do not hesitate. Schedule time with us, and we'll help you work through it. Okay, so you might be wondering, like, who should join? Chances are you. And so pretty much individuals or groups that want to connect with like-minded people in their communities to make a bigger local impact. So we see kind of 3 different types of groups that join us. So we see pretty established groups. They may even be incorporated as C3 or C4 organizations, but they want to join Trouble Nation to have access some of the content and opportunities that we offer. There might be like newer groups that might have formed separately, but they now want the connection and resources of Trouble Nation. And then this third bullet point, I would say, is about at least 90% of the groups that start with us are people who they might be one single person, or it might be a small group of people who want to start a local group of their own and aren't sure where to begin. So you probably fit one of those bills. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned before that we have our Trouble Nation resources page. I just want to really encourage you to, once you join, you'll have instructions to access our resources page. I would bookmark it and really spend some time noodling around in there. It's a treasure trove of information. Next slide, please. And one of the biggest, you might be wondering, okay, there's a lot here. Where do I start? One place that we highly recommend starting is with our Troublemaker's Guide to Starting and Growing a Grassroots Group. It is I think it's a 35 to 40 page digital booklet that gives you a lot of information, some of which Julie covered earlier, just lots of ideas and suggestions for getting started. And that is one of the resources available on the resources page, but I like to call it out because it's a great first step. Okay, so I know Julie talked a little bit about, or a lot about, what different things that your group can do. And I just wanted to give you a preview into what our team is developing and will be rolling out really soon. So, as I think both Julie said, and everybody probably on this call feels like we all felt very dejected, gutted after the election results in November. And, there's a lot of rebuilding to do. But what we firmly believe is that, and I think the fact that you're showing up tonight is really great because it shows that you're not going to bury your head. You're not just going to pull the covers up. You recognize that you want to do something and you want to take meaningful action. And so here's what we recommend for this year is that sort of overarching all that you do. It's all about building community. You are so much more powerful together than individual. And then sort of underscoring these pillars are, a lot of people are focused on their personal safety and online security. These are big questions right now, and we're going to be providing some guides and toolkits for our groups to access around all of these. And so those are sort of the supports, but the three main focuses that we're recommending for groups are to focus on opposition, another word for resistance. We do not know. I mean, we have a sense, but we don't know exactly what's coming down the pike, and it's kind of a rapid response. So we like, how do you react to this? Mutual aid. That's Julie talked about it. It's about helping the communities helping communities in your local area. And then advocacy and accountability, it's going to need to hold our elected representatives accountable. So our team is working really hard to provide some actionable toolkits that you can use to fulfill each of these pillars. And I learned today that one of our groups is so excited about this. What they've done with their leadership team is they've assigned a different member of their leadership team to each pillar to kind of spearhead that as a committee. So that might be something to consider. Okay, and it's just to share, this is our team at Trouble Nation. I'm the director. Renee Seckel is our deputy director. She's on the call right now. Angela Levine is one of our managers. She's on the call. And Shannon Gallagher is the fourth member of our team. And so we are available for one-on-one meetings. You will see our faces a lot, and we're here to help you. We can just sort of pause here quickly. So if you're interested in joining, if or start joining a group or starting a group of your own, would scan the left barcode or to join Trouble Nation at redwine.blue/Trouble Nation. I'm dropping the link again to take you right there, and that's where you can plug in your zip code and your city and state and see if you have groups near you, or you can apply to join to start a group of your own. And then this other QR code is the same QR code to use for office hours, new group orientation, or our 4-week launch sequence. So every Friday, once you apply, we highly recommend that you all participate in one of our new group orientation sessions. They're held Fridays at noon Eastern. We do have a recording on our resources page if that time doesn't work for you, but if you can make it, it's a great thing a great program to watch, to participate in. And then after you participate in a new group orientation, then you enter into a 4-week launch sequence. So there's a lot of information that's part of Trouble Nation, and we want to prepare you and make sure you understand everything that's involved in the program. And so that's what we cover over 4 weeks. And you kind of get to know the other leaders in your cohort, which is really nice. We also have some office hours. So if, in addition to the one-on-one appointments, you can join small groups for office hours with members of our team just to get any questions you have answered. And then the next slide is the last one, which is just to show, connect with us. You can, these are the names of the people on our team, and then also you can email us at troublenation@redwine.blue, and you'll hear back in a day or so. So we just encourage you to reach out. Thank you very much.
We got a lot of questions. Go ahead and ask.
Okay, so the last question, so that I don't lose it in the thing, Missy, someone is asking about, are we working on promoting diversity in these groups that has BIPOC are too often left out of political organizing? So if you want to talk about our ad hoc team.
Yes, yes. So the promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice in our groups is very important to us. And Julie Collins and I, and we worked with a small group of leaders who all throughout last year, and it will continue into this year as well, to work on how evaluating our program through a DEIJ lens, and to encourage groups to apply some principles as they are growing. We do have some work to do, but we are very open to doing that. And so we've been in some conversations to make that even more robust. So yes, it's very important.
Somebody wanted to know what was the difference between Red Wine and Blue versus Trouble Nation. And I know you probably get this a lot, Missy, so could you kind of give us the brief explanation?
Sure. So Red Wine and Blue is the organization that encompasses a number of different programs. And so Trouble Nation is just one of our organizing programs that's part of Trouble Nation, that is part of Red Wine and Blue. So others include our national organizing arm that this training is a part of, our SWEEP Facebook community. We also have organizing teams on the ground in 5 states, which are Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and North Carolina. And there may be something else that I'm missing, but so Trouble Nation is just one of those arms.
All right. And then how many of the groups have men in them is another question. And then we'll get to some of the others.
So it looks like I'm going to be answering a lot of questions. So not a tremendous number actually do have men, but some do, and they're absolutely welcome as long as they're there to support the cause. And so I know Akron Democracy Defenders, one of the reasons that they changed their name from a name that had women in it was to make it open to men. And I know that there's a couple groups that have recently applied that are men as leaders, and I know one of a really active group in Reno, Nevada, is a husband-wife team, and they do amazing work. So I will say they are, at least 95% women for the most part, but yes, men are welcome as long as they're there for the right reasons.
Well, this one will be a question for Abby and Sharon. How do you get funding for your activities?
We haven't had any funding for our activities at this point. If we had to rent a space, our leaders paid for it. That's why we're so grateful to have a space that we don't have to pay for. And maybe even Missy can talk to this, because I'm not 100% sure how we would even go about other than donations from our members.
We're in the same. We're not a formal organization or anything. So I saw one of the questions, like for postcard writing. I basically hit up my friends. I've had some very generous friends who gave us a lot of stamps. People bought postcards. So we basically pooled our resources and asked friends to help us in kind with supplies and stuff like that. And we just had a community event on Monday for MLK, and people just donated to buy those supplies. And we were able to get the $500 we needed quite easily. Yeah. In fact, I think we got more than we needed now, so we have a little bit of slush fund.
I can actually answer this too, because I do have a local group, which is on Trouble Nation, but we don't, I think we actually do have a bank account. We're just a social club. We're not like a 50401c3 or anything like that. But we have done fundraisers. Like we bought wine glasses on the cheap and had somebody etch funny sayings in them, and we sold those for $20. Honestly, we just ask people to pay dues, and they're just happy to have the group, and they'll give us $20 a year. I have a friend that just orders charms online. You can get like these bags of like charms. So during the election, she bought Converse charms, different colors, and she put them on necklaces with pearls, and we sold those for $5. Those charms cost her like a penny each. So there's a lot of creative fundraising, fun things you can do. And I mean, honestly, you can just ask people to donate if they're happy. Sometimes people don't want to do anything, but they're willing to give you money because they don't want to show up at the yeah, they don't want to show up at the school board or call the legislator, but they want to do something. So there's ways to raise money.
So, and that's a good segue to someone asked for advice for introverts who, don't really feel comfortable maybe doing some of the more outward facing things in your group. So, what kind of activities can someone who's not so peoply, what can they do?
Well, I think, we had, we supported a shelter, a local shelter, and we had a bingo night where people wore funny holiday sweaters, and we asked for donations of pajamas for children and women who were staying at the shelter. Um, and I think that's a way for people who might not be so, outgoing, or they don't want to knock on a door to canvass or circulate a petition, and they can feel like they're participating. Postcard writing is also really a good way to do it too. Because, you're not facing somebody, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
I
So,
would say, if you've got an organizer someone who wants to start a group, I'm kind of shy a little bit. But you find your team, and you have different people in your team. So they all bring different skills and strengths and personalities. So, it
That's
doesn't
true.
have to be all on one person.
have you brand? Oh, sorry, Julie.
Oh no, I saw the question in the chat, and I think the person was also kind of indicating that like they weren't sure that they were an introvert, so they weren't sure they wanted to start a group, but so I was gonna say check Trouble Nation to see if there's a group near you. Maybe if you're not ready to start a group and there is nothing near you, we do have something at Red, Wine, and Blue called our Hype Squad, which is helping us amplify stuff on social media because right now social media is collapsing all of our political content. So the more people sharing it, that's another way. And look for advocacy groups near you, like Moms Demand Action, or in Ohio, we have Honesty for Ohio Education, and follow them. They may have meetings you can go. Maybe you'll meet other people in your community, and maybe you can talk to someone else who's an extrovert into starting the group. There's plenty of things to do behind the scenes that you don't need to be the public face of something, but don't do nothing. Like find something fun to do.
Yeah, and we may have fully answered this, but we did a program with Trouble Nation, one of those trainings that I mentioned. It was part of that training series, and it was about actions your group can take. We had lots of different actions on there, and there was a whole section on that we titled "Actions for the Intensely Introverted." And one of them was there's a woman who paints rocks that like liberal, that she calls her, it's liberal rocks. You could actually find her at liberalrocks.com, and you can customize messages on a little rock and just leave it behind somewhere. So it can say things like "say gay" or "no hate" or things like that. And it's just sort of like a nice little thing. You can kind of, another introvert could help work behind the scenes for a group. They could help moderate your social media. You could, research legislation, provide admin support, that kind of thing. So just wanted to.
Okay. So the last thing is, have you all branded yourself as you have grown? Have you branded your groups? Someone asked.
I think we branded our groups by renaming our group. And also I think we've been working with somebody to try to come up with a logo, a meaningful logo that we can put on our Facebook. And I do. I feel like we've branded.
Yeah, we actually, someone we knew who helped us at the beginning, they helped us come up with a logo that we use. Their daughter was a graphic designer or something like that. I can't honestly remember now, but yeah, we got a logo pretty early on. Yeah.
Okay. Someone asked about joining the Hive Squad. Will you have that in the
I'll drop the
email?
link.
Okay. All right. So we are 1 minute over time. So I'm going to kick it back to Julie to close this
Okay,
out.
I'm looking for the Hype Squad link. Hold on one second. I'm multitasking.
Right.
Okay, well, obviously, I want to say thank you so much to Abby and Sharon for coming and sharing their experiences. Here's the Hype Squad link. I'm dropping it right now. you guys are both kicking butt where you are, and we are like so happy to be associated with your groups. I've met Sharon like what, twice in person now, right? I've been in Virginia and got to meet you, so it's been great. Get to hopefully meet Abby sometime in person too. So thank you all for coming. We will send you an email out with the I'll give you a copy of the slides, and we will get the link for Trouble Nation. We are always available to answer questions. So if you are interested in any way, shape, or form, even if it's just like, I don't know, I'm thinking about it, call us, talk to us. We would love to like answer any questions. And we'll be around next week. We got some really great things coming up and hope to see you soon.